Every single one of us has a brand, whether we like it or not. Other people see us as two-dimensional versions of our true self, and that's how we remember each other. This is how you were able to remember hundreds of people. You have this 2D static image of who they were the last time you interacted with them. You might know someone from 7 years ago, but you only know them as the version that they were 7 years ago because you haven't interacted with them since. So how do you manage to help people see you differently than how they saw you 7 years ago? That's where your personal brand comes in. Today, we're going to talk about how executive branding works and why it matters. My name is Tom, and I'm the founder of Vertical Motion, where we help mid-career professionals become executives. If that's interesting to you, then you can check out how you can book a call to talk with one of our discovery coaches to see how we might be able to help you build your executive career as well. Today, what we're doing is we're talking about how executive branding works and why executive branding matters. So go back to what I was saying in the beginning here, where people have this 2D static image of who you are. This is a version of yourself from the past that they know, and they haven't really updated that version of you because, well, they haven't had any interactions with you. They have no reason to change that perspective of you. I think about people I know from 7, 8, 9 years ago, and I imagine that they are different, that they've grown in some way, but I can't imagine how. So I just expect them to be how I saw them 9 years ago. And when I see them and they're very different, I update that mental model. This is how we remember people around us. And so people will remember you in passing. They won't project out what your growth trajectory is because there's no way to know how fast or how slow someone grows or in what direction that they grow. So how you brand yourself really matters, because if you don't update this version of yourself that people know, if you don't give people a sense of who you are now and what's important to you today, they're just going to assume you're this older version of yourself. More importantly, people who don't know you at all will just make wild assumptions about you if you don't tell them who you are and what you're about and what you stand for. So branding really matters, especially for executives. If you want to be a leader, you need to demonstrate leadership, and you can do this through your brand. So we're going to talk about that today. What I want to do is I want to walk you through the 7 key elements of executive brand, how you can use them to build your network and build people's awareness of you as a potential leader or potential executive. The first element of executive brand is your mission. Where are you trying to go? What is your goal? What is your purpose? I spend a lot of time with my clients helping them figure out what their life purpose is, because if they don't know what their life purpose is, they don't know how to align their career to it. And when you don't align your career to your life purpose, what happens is you kind of hate your job and you lose energy, or it's draining to do the work that you might be good at but you don't love. And so we try to figure out what people love, what they're good at, what the world needs from them, and what they can be paid to do, and combine all of those elements into whatever their career should be going forward. When you align your career with your life purpose and you have a mission and a vision and a goal and a plan for how you're going to get there, you just kind of effortlessly move that way. It's a very different feeling than fighting and pushing and shoving your way to the top. It's more like you float up effortlessly, which I didn't believe this until I actually did it myself. And now I'm just amazed at how easy my life is because I am living in my zone of genius and I'm doing what my life purpose is. Beforehand, I fought my way to every milestone in my career, tooth and nail, super amounts of energy, Herculean force to move upwards. Now I just kind of float up, and it's an amazing feeling. And I want that for people. This is an important mindset shift, but this all comes from your ability to define what your mission in life is. And this can look like knowing your goals, your values, your vision, all of these things. If you can figure this out, then you have 90% of the problem solved. So start, when you develop your brand, start with knowing what your mission in life is. My mission is to teach leadership. That is my life purpose. And I didn't know that until I went through leukemia. Now I know my life purpose is to teach leadership, at least for now. Maybe it'll be something different in a couple years, but right now, my life purpose and my mission is to teach leadership. What is yours? Number 2 is to use your story. Use your story, your life experiences, your career experiences to tell a story about your journey through growth. I talk about my experience as an executive all the time. I made so many mistakes early in my career. I was a terrible leader. I was a terrible terrible executive because no one had taught me how to be one. And I didn't know that I could work with a coach to actually become a better executive until 5 or 6 years into my executive career. And when I started working with an executive career coach, it changed everything for me. But I didn't know how to do that. I tell these stories because they're analogies for everyone else. You might be in a situation where you're trying to move up and you have this like glass ceiling over your head and you can't quite figure out why you're stuck at the manager level. You can't get to director or vice president and you don't know what you don't know. And it's very frustrating. Coaches can help you through that. So I tell that story all the time. That was my experience. I got stuck. I didn't know how to move up. And then I eventually figured out what I needed to know. Use your career journey to talk about your story. What experiences have you had in your career or in your life that impact and influence your thoughts and beliefs and that mission that we just talked about a minute ago? So use your story, your life story, to help tell your brand. Number 3 is value proposition. What do you bring to the table? What can you offer to an organization? Are you a gregarious, outgoing, friendly, social person who loves to talk with people for hours on end and make customers feel comfortable and safe and all of that? Or are you a highly technical person who's really great at diving into the details and getting into the minutia and making sure that everything is perfect? Or are you someone who's very strategic and likes to think big picture about process, M&A, all of the opportunity that's out there in the world? Where do you fit? Like, what value do you bring to an organization? What value do you want to bring to organizations? That's also an important part of this, right? It's not just what you are, but it's what you are becoming. That's also a part of this. The 4th element to executive brand is your style. What is your energy level? Are you charismatic? Are you someone who's very outgoing or more introverted? Do you have a ton of confidence? What's your social style? All of these elements kind of make up your style. And so understand what your style is and lean into it. Don't pretend to be something you're not. Be exactly who you are. Lean into that. If you're reserved and quiet, be reserved and quiet. So instead of getting on YouTube, write blog posts because that's a more introverted way to communicate, and that's fine. And speaking of communication, number 5 is your communication. Communication is what the listener does. Are you able to communicate in a way that lets other people understand what you're trying to tell them? You might think in terms of logic and fact and reason, but if you're talking to someone who only thinks in terms of emotion and feeling, then there might be a disconnect between what you are saying and what they are hearing. So remember that communication is what the listener does. How do you communicate to people who think differently than you? The 6th element to executive brand is to keep a consistent message throughout. You want something that's cohesive and memorable. So you want to have a brand that people say like, okay, so for example, I help mid-career professionals become executives. I say that a lot. It's a consistent message because that's actually what I do. I help mid-career professionals become executives. That's my brand. And it's important that you understand that that is consistent messaging. I say that all the time. If you look at the people who brand themselves the best, Brené Brown, Simon Sinek, John Maxwell, they're on brand every time that you hear them. People who brand themselves really well are really good at saying the same thing over and over and over again, usually in different ways that align with how the listener is listening or how the listener can hear them. But it's important to know that they do say the same things over and over again because the truth is that our brand has to be simple. It can't be very complex. I brand myself as an executive career coach. I'm good at a lot of other things and I have other passions and interests in my life. I don't brand myself with those things right now because I don't want to confuse the audience with what I am and why I'm here. And the 7th and final element to an executive brand is content. Content. If you think about it, all of the leaders that you can think of, all the leaders that you know, you have found them somewhere. They were online, they were on TV, they were on a podcast, they were on radio, you read a book, you saw a picture about them, they're in a movie, whatever it is, they created content and you consumed that content and you agreed with their way of thinking and now they are a thought leader in your life, right? Brené Brown, Simon Sinek, John Maxwell, all these people have written lots of books, prolific books. I love all of their books, to be honest with you, or most of them anyway. But the point is that I read their books, I resonate with what they're saying, and they become a leader in my life. They become an example of who I want to be and how I see the world. You need to become that for other people in order to become a leader yourself. To be an executive, you have to lead, and you have to put yourself out there in a way that people see you, and they see you as the version that you want them them to see, that the version of yourself that you're going to become when you become an executive, when you are in charge. So putting yourself out there looks like creating content. I know that not everyone loves to write blog posts or post TikTok videos. You don't have to do those things, but you have to do something. You have to write something or create something that's basically defining who you are and your beliefs and your values, or a topic and a message that you want to put out there. So for me, I'm here on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I am on TikTok too. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I talk on all of those platforms. I'm also writing a book right now. All of these are pieces of content that push out to the world my thinking, my beliefs, my ideas, my suggestions. And all of that is important to help bring people into my community who want to become versions of themselves that we can help make into executives. So those are the 7 key elements to an executive brand: your mission, your story, your value proposition, your style, your communication, consistent messaging, and content. Now, I want to give you one more bonus tip here, and that is from here, once you've done these 7 things, you need to go craft your executive brand. And that typically looks like a one-liner statement that kind of sums up who you are right now and what you're trying to accomplish right now. So for me, my executive brand statement is very simple, and I've said it a couple times. I help mid-career professionals become executives. I work with authentic, empathetic, and audacious aspiring leaders because I believe they make the best executives. When I say that, I'm telling you exactly what I do and who I do it for and who I want to talk to. And I tell you a little bit about my beliefs and my morals and values. And you kind of get a really quick sense of who I am in 20 words or less. And that's what you want to craft for your personal executive brand. If you'd like help working through that, then there's a link in the description where you can talk with us and we can show you how you can work with our team to build your executive brand and deploy it in a way that attracts the right opportunities to your executive career. So check that out if that's interesting to you. Hopefully this video was valuable to you, and I will see you in the next one.